Good evening. I'm Fiona Pendragon, and you're watching the Engagement Report. Today is April 31st. Our top story tonight focuses on student engagement, often considered the foundation of meaningful learning. After all, how can students be expected to learn if they are neither interested nor invested in the process? Many educators are now exploring ways to strengthen engagement by increasing student choice and agency in the classroom. To discuss this further, I'm joined by our correspondent, Penny Stillwater. Penny, what are researchers saying about the connection between motivation and participation?
Thanks, Fiona. One of the key findings is that motivation and participation influence one another. Participation doesn't simply reflect motivation, it can actually create it. When students experience success, even in small ways, their confidence grows. That sense of competence encourages them to put more effort and engage more deeply in their learning.
That's so interesting.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Well, and perhaps by combining choice and participation, we can really influence agency. Also, motivation leans heavily into constructivism, where learning is an active process. So participation can actually build motivation over time.
Exactly. Good point. But it's also important to remember that visible participation doesn't always mean learning is happening. A student who appears quiet may actually be thinking deeply, or they might just be confused. On the other hand, a student who looks compliant may simply be following instructions without fully processing the material.
That is an excellent point, Penny, and important for educators to know so they don't make assumptions. In terms of cognition, we do know that active learning is correlated with dopamine activity, and dopamine regulates selective attention. Do you have anything to add to the roles of cognitive science participation?
Well, neuroscience offers some useful insight here. Research shows that working memory can typically handle only about 3 to 5 new pieces of information at a time. When instruction introduces too much information at once, students may struggle, not because they lack motivation though, but because the brain has natural limits on how much it can process.
So what might look like disengagement could actually be cognitive overload.
Yes, exactly. And there's another important point. Struggle can actually support learning.
Wow.
So practices like retrieval and spaced review strengthen brain connections more effectively than passive activities. When learning feels effortful, that effort often indicates that students are building stronger understanding.
Wow. And similarly, it is important to let them handle their own workload. Students need to know what it feels like to have agency over their own interests, even though controlling that as an educator is a common practice. So difficulty isn't necessarily a bad thing.
That's right, not at all. In fact, when learning feels like hard work, students are often doing the kind of thinking that leads to lasting knowledge. But engagement alone isn't enough. Task design matters. Students need clear structure, meaningful challenges, and opportunities for both choice and agency.
Penny, that is an excellent point. A great practice for educators is to ask questions about what students are interested in before you start a unit. That way you can personalize your task design and it involves the students in the conversation.
That's right, Fiona. You are so on point today. When those elements are present, they create a positive cycle. Motivation encourages participation. Participation builds confidence. And then that confidence brings it all back together and it leads to deeper engagement in learning. Ultimately, the goal is to move students from surface level compliance to meaningful growth.
Thank you, Penny. That was Penny Stillwater with our headline story on the science of student engagement and learning. Now, for those planning their week ahead, let's have a look at the weather with Addie Sumsworth. How's the temperature out there, Addie?
Thanks, Fiona. The current weather in math classes these days can be quite chilly. Students feel test and performance anxiety in classrooms worldwide, with math anxiety recognized globally as one of the most prominent forms. For some students, it can feel like stepping outside without a raincoat. Before long, they're getting soaked by stress and self-doubt. Long-term negative consequences for students who struggle with math anxiety include poor performance and achievement and potential impact on students' prospective vocational choices.
That sounds like some difficult weather conditions for learning.
Sure is, Fiona. Math anxiety also interacts with variables such as self-efficacy or motivation in mathematics and the sciences, which are crucial skills in a learning process across disciplines and can foster a sense of self-doubt within students. Educators hold a key role in the facilitation of students' learning and therefore the development of math anxiety and further feelings of self-doubt.
Addie, can you comment on how the rainy disposition of personal preference can be overcome with math anxiety? Even with the introduction of novel ideas, engagement is still a multifaceted approach, and the negative effects like repetition are still quite prevalent in math. Even with the new teaching approaches, engagement is complex, and sometimes the repetitive nature of practice still feels like a downpour.
Well, you see, Fiona, math anxiety is, in very simple terms, a problem of interpretation. It is not the math itself that impairs performance, but the student's appraisal of the situation as a threat to their self-concept. Research suggests that educators can shift these threat appraisals to challenge appraisals through accurate, self-assuring feedback.
Addie, that echoes the findings stated previously, that participation doesn't just reflect motivation, it drives it. Small successes build confidence, and that confidence encourages students to stay engaged and keep trying.
Absolutely, Penny. Even further, an anxious student is working with fewer cognitive resources because their worries each compete for the same memory space required for the task at hand, such as a challenging math problem. It's like trying to solve complex problems while standing out in the rain. This reframes a struggling student as someone experiencing cognitive overload rather than simply lacking ability, positioning support as a motivational vehicle to help redirect and move their learning forward.
Oh, wow, that is some weather that Addie is experiencing. Sounds like she's prepared to handle it, though.
Speaking of motivational vehicles, let's take a look at traffic conditions this evening. For that, we go to Mr. Fox in the traffic center.
Thanks, Fiona. We are looking at some major gridlock on the traditional education interchange. We've got heavy rubbernecking in the humanities lanes because the students are finding a total lack of connection to their current reality. It's bumper to bumper snooze fest out there, folks. Student engagement has come to a complete standstill. Don't hit the brakes just yet. We're seeing a new carpool lane opening up called gamification. Now don't get it twisted. This isn't a parking lot for playing video games all day. It's about using game design mechanics to get traffic moving again. And we're seeing some great progression systems acting as traffic stops to ensure better understanding. If you're looking to bypass the engagement gap sinkhole, experts suggest taking the inquiry-based exit. We're seeing a lot of high-speed movement with e-quizzes for our more neurodiverse drivers out there, helping them navigate the route by breaking content up into digestible bites. It's really clearing up the cognitive load. We can think of it as adding an extra lane to the brain's working memory. However, we do have a hazard warning near the Freedom to Fail junction. While some students love the fast lane of leaderboards, others are experiencing some performance anxiety and total disengagement. It's becoming a real pileup for some lower-level learners out there. And finally, a major road closure to report in the traditional lane for sensitive topics like the residential school system. Trying to gamify these areas is a dangerous curve that could trivialize the importance of the content. I'm Mr. Fox reminding you to keep your hands on the wheel and your mind on the inquiry. Back to you, Fiona.
Finally, tonight, for the latest on engagement strategies and the tech trends sweeping our classrooms, we've brought in our special guest, Tessa Brightwell. Hi, Tessa. So how do we help students close learning gaps without treating technology like the answer to absolutely everything?
Thanks, Fiona. I didn't even see you there. Tonight, we turn to developing situation in classrooms everywhere. Students treating technology like it's the only tool left on earth. You hand them a notebook and they look at you like you've just presented a rare museum artifact. This brings us to our central question. How do we build digital literacy without turning every lesson into a tech dependency drill? Reports show that digital literacy isn't just about navigating apps at lightning speed. It's about knowing when technology actually helps and when it's just adding unnecessary sparkle. But in how many smart classrooms we're seeing classic tasks dressed up in digital packaging, like someone slapped a touch screen on a worksheet and called it innovation.
Wow, what an important observation, Tessa. Technology should enhance traditional forms of learning, not just disguise it. It is especially important if we are designing a curriculum that is relevant to the generation we are teaching. However, is there a difficulty in implementing this properly?
Yes, Fiona, there is a noticeable gap between what our digital literacy frameworks imagine and what schools can realistically pull off. Some classrooms have robust tech ecosystems. Others are running on one Chromebook, half a charger, and sheer optimism. And here's the twist. More tech doesn't automatically mean more engagement. In fact, too much can make students less enthusiastic. Turns out even teenagers get tired of screens. Shocking, I know. The takeaway, purposeful tech use means modeling both smart use and smart non-use. When students learn to choose the right tool for the job, they become more confident, more thoughtful, and far less likely to panic when the Wi-Fi blinks. Back to you, Fiona.
What an incredible panel we have had here today.
Yes, engagement really is a complex issue. And we've shown here today the big task educators have in front of them.
That's all for today's engagement report. Thanks for staying with us. We'll see you next time.
1 is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. 2 can be as bad as 1. It's the loneliest number since the